morning, everyone. I'm Stephen Aaron, and as the chair of the UCLA History Department, it's my pleasure to welcome all to our 2017 History Department commencement. Congratulations to our graduates, to the relatives and friends of graduates, and happy Father's Day. A couple of months ago, Dylan Hernandez, a reporter for the Los Angeles Times, wrote a piece about Dodger manager Dave Roberts. In the article, Hernandez included the following exchange. Quote, "Was Roberts a good student?" "When I wanted to be," Roberts replied. Roberts, then, Hernandez added, has a degree in history from UCLA, or actually you should say, the way the reporter wrote it, Roberts has a degree from UCLA, but it's in history. And then he added, feel free to boo any time, then he added, the school will give one of those to pretty much anyone. "I know," he said, "my degree from UCLA is in history also." Roberts laughed. "You're right," he said. "I wasn't econ at UCLA." Boo. Needless to say, as the chair of the UCLA History Department, what we can all agree is the best department with the best majors at UCLA. I could not let this besmirching of the reputation of our department and our majors go unanswered. So I fired off an email to Mr. Hernandez in which I invited him to come back to Bunch Hall, which I'll admit is not the best building on campus, to meet with our students, to share his path from a degree in history at UCLA to writing for the Los Angeles Times, and to hear from you about the rigor with which our majors undertake the study of history. Indeed, I told him I thought his story on Dave Roberts underscored the particular value of a history degree from UCLA. After all, and these are quotes from the article, what major better prepares one to caution for the worst case and be cognizant of exit strategies than a history major? Who could be more ready to adapt to changing circumstances that confront a baseball manager, or for that matter, a manager of any enterprise, than a student of history? It's no wonder that UCLA history majors do so well in the world, and UCLA history majors do so well for the world, in pursuits as diverse as writing for the LA Times and managing a Major League Baseball team. I'm still awaiting a response from Mr. Hernandez, but he's welcome to come back to Bunch anytime, as is Dave Roberts, with or without Dodger tickets. As I wrote in this year's chair's message for the commencement program, today is a day to look backward and forward. As history majors, we hope you're well prepared to look backward. After all, looking backward is what history presumably is all about. But the value of your history education lies not only in what it has taught you about the past, but about how it has prepared you for the future. Hence, the call in the program for you to look forward to. Today is certainly a day to reflect on your years before you came to UCLA and your years at UCLA. Whatever the duration of your sojourn here, I hope you can all think of several ways in which you have changed and in which your outlook on the world has changed because of what you learned here about how the world and its peoples have changed across time and space. But before you get too deep into that backward-looking contemplation, I want all the graduates to stand up. I want you to turn around. I want you to shout. I want you to shout. I want you to roar so loud that Dylan Hernandez and Dave Roberts can hear you well over at Dodger Stadium. All right. Thank you. The question I'm often asked, what parents often ask, is, what can you do with a history degree? To which I always answer, what can't you do with a history degree? Be a reporter for the LA Times? Check. Be the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers? Check. And our speaker today and distinguished UCLA history alum also checks many and various boxes. As the brief biography of her in your program details, Dianna Derycz-Kessler earned a JD degree at Harvard Law School and an MA from Stanford in Latin American Studies. But the degree that really matters and that accounts for all of her successes in the world, as I'm sure she'll tell you, is the BA in History that she received in 1987 from UCLA. Her bio notes some of the many things that she has done in the various enterprises she's overseen since graduating. Here, I want to call your attention to only one of those ventures, her work with Act One Ventures, a fund focused on startups launched by UCLA alumni in Los Angeles. I'm not sure how soon after this ceremony you're allowed to contact her, but please feel free to do so. And it's my pleasure to welcome our speaker, Dianna Derycz-Kessler.
Thank you. I know my bio was useful for something. For all those people in the sun over there, just use my bio to cover the sun, okay? So good morning, UCLA. Woo! I'm so happy to be here. Yay! Okay, so to the graduating class of 2017, distinguished faculty, families, and friends, thank you, Professor and Chair Steve Aaron, for inviting me here today. A pleasure to be back. And today is a very special day. It's Father's Day. So for all you fathers out there, can you please stand up? Please stand up. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. A shout out to all of you for working so hard, for reaching into your pocketbooks and doing whatever you did to get your kid to where they are. And remember, fathers, behind every successful man is a surprised woman. Okay? So, now that I got your confidence up. Okay, speaking of women. Now, you may be wondering, why do we get a female businesswoman up here and a CEO? Why not another UCLA grad like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Ben Stiller? I'm sure you'd have been very excited about that. Even my kids are wondering, why me? In fact, I'm kind of wondering why me. But when I told my executives at the Los Angeles Film School about this, one of them said, but that makes total sense, Dianna. This is like power woman moment. Wonder Woman just beat out all those male-led movies at the box office. So this is like, woo, woman power. And a woman joined the Uber board. What kind of controversy was that? And have you heard about that crazy story? So anyway, it's the time of the woman, and I'm just going to take that and own it. So, thank you. If you were paying attention in Western Civ class, graduates, you may remember that Alexander the Great conquered half the Western world by the age of 25. Okay, so what have you conquered so far? Love, maybe? Girlfriend, boyfriend? At least that? Your parents' pocketbook? Yeah? Okay, but anyway, I do know something that you've conquered. You've accomplished one of the most amazing things, and that is you're graduating from a world-renowned university that is UCLA. And frankly, everybody would die to come here. You know that, right? Even those USC kids would die to be here. Yeah, I know. So, with your great education, you have just accomplished a giant leap into a successful future. As one of the most famous actors of last century, Mr. John Wayne said, life is tough, but it's tougher if you're stupid. So with your UCLA degree in hand, you are ready to soar. Before going into a bit of my story, I want you to know that history has been my own personal companion, my teacher, my entertainer, and my source of inspiration. I kid you not. It's helped me with all of my decisions throughout life. My husband can tell you that I have 1 or 2 history books at my bedside every night. My favorite ones are stories of great men and women who always show extreme struggle, but sometimes we always see their stories of success. But let me explain. Cixi, the empress that ruled China for close to 50 years, taught me that no matter where you come from, or the fact that you are a woman in a man's world, you can rise to dominate an empire controlled by men. Henry VIII's second wife, Anne Boleyn, taught me that with a hot outfit and a hot pair of shoes, which I have on today, you can conquer any man you want. Cool outfits alone, though, won't stop you from getting your head chopped off. So, she also taught me that even if you are a beautiful woman with a powerful man at your side, you may as well be a smart woman that has something else going for you. And if Anne Boleyn had developed a smarter, craftier side, she may have even gotten to her husband first, right? Kind of like the young Catherine the Great. I think that's what she did. And then, by knocking off her husband, she secured herself the throne for the rest of her life. So anyway, Steve Jobs taught me that you can be on top of the world and still cry in business meetings. And crying I have done. But if you're going to cry, it does help if you're the boss. So try to get there. History also taught me about love. One of our founding fathers, John Adams, showed me that you can be a total rock star type of a guy and president of a great country and actually have a successful marriage that spans your lifetime. So from history to business, how did I get from your seat to where I am today? Well, looking back, my success certainly started with my parents. My dad grew up a peasant in the Ukrainian mountains, tending to the cows and the sheep, with no access to school. Without knowing how to read or write, he became a prisoner of war at the tender age of 14 during World War II. Funny, he may have been the only prisoner of war that was happy when imprisoned because he had a more consistent food supply than back as a peasant in the Ukraine. His story was my first lesson in positive thinking. From there, he joined the French Foreign Legion, going to Vietnam for 2 stints, shooting and getting shot at. When I was a little girl, I loved taking my finger and sticking it into the soft tissue of his bullet holes in his skin. It's kind of cool. On top of teaching me how to be tough, he provided me with a valuable lesson that you can assess a human's character by how well they walk through fire. My mom grew up in a small Mexican town. Like my dad, she made her way to the land of opportunity, taking any job she can get. From my earliest memories, her only goal in life was to work hard and to see her 2 kids get educated. She was responsible for fostering my love of education. The first part of my life, I remember growing up scared of the world because I knew I was different. On top of learning the English language through my parents' accents, I had moved back to Mexico for a while and further distorting my command of the English language that did. At age 13, back in the United States, I realized I didn't speak like everybody else. I had this skinny and lanky body that did not look like those girls on TV. We were a humble family with little money. And on top of everything, I did not feel smart. How could I be if I couldn't even get my English grammar right? Everywhere I turned, I faced a fear and an insecurity. And when I mustered up a few seconds of confidence, my brother Peter was always there to remind me of how funny looking I really was. My only resort was to work hard and put myself out there. I took multiple jobs while in high school, served burgers during the morning break and lunch break at my high school, did some fashion modeling, and worked at the local mall. I also signed up for college evening classes and joined my high school sports teams, all the while trying to get straight A's. This was the beginning of my speeding up in life, rarely slowing down. Being in constant motion was actually my survival tactic. Stopping and smelling the roses was not my thing. I hated Sundays, thinking they were the most boring days ever, and I looked forward to my favorite day of the week, always Monday. I still remember my first week as a freshman at UCLA. I had just moved out of my house at age 17 to a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other girls I didn't know, who happened to be sophomores at that. My space was $150 a month, which was a lot for my family and me. I was so nervous about the new surroundings, living with older girls that I didn't know, but most importantly, not sure I had what it takes to actually be here. So in my nervousness, I spent most of the first week nursing some very active and frequent bowel movements. I learned where every bathroom at North Campus was and delivered what seemed to me like a truckload of, kids, close your ears, diarrhea that first week. I kid you not, hoping nobody would notice how panicked I was. I did what my survival instincts had taught me, though. I pretended to belong, and I just worked hard. You know those books that you get at the beginning of every class? So when you get out here and you go to a class, you get your books and you pick up 5 to 10 really thick, heavy history books, right? Faculty, do you still do that? No? Okay, why are you torturing us so much? But anyway, I kid you not, and I'm sure you guys read all those books, right? Every single one? Every word? Okay. Well, I did. I actually read every single book, every single word, and when I didn't understand a sentence, I would reread it and reread it again. As my classmates were hitting the local bars, jamming all-nighters before an exam, I was the one that felt I couldn't mess up. I could probably take a test right now on the history of military coups in Latin America in the 20th century and ace it. That's how hard I studied. In my junior year, panic hit me again as to what my next step was going to be after UCLA. And this approach would be my own operating manual from then on. I was always planning my next move prior to finishing my current one. I couldn't waste any time, so I applied to a master's degree and received a scholarship to Stanford and a job on their campus. I planned my next step almost immediately upon arrival at Stanford and was accepted into Harvard Law School. My life changed and my confidence grew. I no longer had to scout out the location of the nearest bathrooms upon my arrival at each of these schools. My first day at Harvard, I was slotted into an orientation group of 13 kids, something Harvard did to ensure that you made friends before throwing you into the bigger group. Sitting out on the grass, we all told our stories of where we came from. I immediately was struck by this high-powered brainiac group. They were all graduates of amazing schools and had diverse world experiences. Oh yeah, and then there's that skinny, tall guy that was sitting next to me who told his story and then said, "My name is Barack Obama." So imagine having a class like him. I totally felt like an underachiever the entire time. So I just worked hard, which is what I normally do. To make ends meet, I took a modeling job around Boston, all the while trying to keep up with the bigger and even fatter books that I got there. I landed a couple of world-class international jobs afterwards, working on amazing global business deals. I am sure that my Harvard Law School degree got me in the door, but as Steve said, it was my history degree and my Latin American studies here that landed me the specific international jobs that I got. I found the work fascinating on top of fulfilling a dream of being connected to the bigger world around me. I had some cool assignments that made me feel like I was front row and center to everything I had learned here at UCLA. For example, I had to convince an Amazon Indian leader from Ecuador, who had never been on a plane before in his life, to fly out to the executive suites here in California and tell us how energy exploitation affected his homeland. You can only imagine how surreal this was to me, having this amazing human figure representing thousands of years of history right in front of me, juxtaposed in the setting of a private jet as I was preparing him to face the men in suits in boardrooms at the top of skyscrapers. This is a guy that had never been past a second or third floor building. As surreal as it was for me, I am sure it was more surreal for him. He probably looked at me, seeing some weird specimen of the first world. On separate assignments, I had to figure out if any drug lords had infiltrated any of our operations for money laundering purposes. I had to trigger force majeure clauses when guerrilla factions would blow up our pipelines, which was almost every month. And I got to negotiate with the World Bank for investments in developing countries. One of my favorite parts of this all was that when traveling through Latin America, I got my car bomb checked regularly. This is pretty cool stuff when you're in late 20s. In fact, I will tell you a big secret. I was hoping to actually get kidnapped and stuck in a box in the jungles of Colombia for at least 6 months, and surviving it, of course, so that I too could write my book, and it ended up being in the history school. So, didn't happen. I'm still here. No kidnapping. But even with all this excitement, at age 30, I left my secure world of corporate America and tossed aside my fat, steady paycheck and a promise of an upwardly mobile career in big business. I took a step that I never, ever thought I would take in my wildest dreams. In fact, I shouldn't describe this as much of a step, but rather it felt more like leaping from an airplane at 10,000 feet without a parachute, hoping to land alive. And what I did is I just left my job and said, I'm going to start my own consulting company. Some people are just natural entrepreneurs. I was not. What I didn't know while jumping out of that airplane is that one of my prior employers called me within a week and became my first and most solid client thereafter. My non-existent parachute had opened, and I was laughing my way down to a soft landing, making more money than before and controlling my own destiny. It was very, very cool. My business was on its way. That leap into entrepreneurialism led me to join the ranks with one of the most amazing true entrepreneurs I have ever met. That's my husband, Paul Kessler, and it's been a wild and fun ride ever since, leading to investments in many areas, including education, technology, entertainment, cancer research, energy, and startups and incubators. I had always had a love of stories, likely stemming from my love of history. And when a bit of time opened up for me as a lawyer, I took filmmaking classes at NYU's Extension program in New York. When the opportunity came to jump into the executive role of a startup that we had just invested in called the Los Angeles Film School, I took the opportunity and I ran with it. It was a dream come true to see this little startup transform into a college of media arts, offering degrees in all areas of media arts, and turning out graduates that are working on some of the top movies that you see around us and music today. And being an investor and entrepreneur has also opened up other opportunities, including some incredible board memberships and my partnership with the UNESCO, affecting global education matters. In adherence to my lifelong rule of jumping into my next step, my current plan is to reduce my operational roles in favor of running companies through ownership and boards. And the best part is I get to spend more time with my beautiful family and my friends. Thank you for always supporting me. Thank you. So graduates, hopefully my story has given you the lesson of working hard, facing your fears, and overcoming challenges. I still face challenges and fears today, always looking for the bathroom. And it's my academic achievements and intellectual curiosity that gives me the strength to jump in and walk through the fire. But there is one more thing that I can impart upon you that will work above anything else. Are you ready? It's the secret to life. Okay, ready? It may seem trivial, may seem like an easy thing to do, but it's actually the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. And that is, drum roll, you need to control your mind. Don't let your mind control you. What I mean by this, think positive thoughts. Of course there are bad things around us at all times, obviously, but there are beautiful things every day, and you can choose what outlook you want to have. Don't let it choose you. Don't be a victim in life. Don't blame others or the world around you. My mentors throughout life have always been those that appear to be less fortunate because they have a physical handicap, a mental handicap, or something tragic that happened in their lives. But if you look at them, many of them have achieved great heights, and I know you know these people. So pick one, because it will constantly remind you that we have no excuses for failure. Walk through the fire without buckling. I don't care who you are, life will throw missiles at you, constantly. It's just the way life is. Keep your cool, get up, and keep going. The most powerful thing this universe has to offer is the educated mind. So class of 2017, dream who you wish to become, and you will become that person. Congratulations. Thank you.